the government is not really for the people anymore. The government is for commercial interests. It's all about business. It's all about their donors. It's all about, the military industrial complex, the people that profiteer from us going to war.
It's so large. We're talking about 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 people that have basically infiltrated every phase of the senior executives of every agency in our country. And these people are not beholden to anyone that we elect. They're not even beholden to the people that the president appoints to run these agencies. They have their own organization system. They have their own budgets. They have all their own rules that are very self-serving. They've even written policies and procedures that say that they can't even be fired by the president. And so as we dug deeper into this, from the documents that you provided, we found the mother lode. And that mother lode is a list that they have to, by law, publish every 4 years that explains the breadth of their involvement in every agency. And now there are lots of holes in the disclosure because there's a lot of people's names that they withhold, but there are plenty that they don't withhold. And as we started digging into these documents, and we went back through the Federal Registry, we got stuck in the year 2000 because the subsequent to the year 2000, there were complete documents. They were 300 or 400 pages long, and they had all the names all collected. But in the year 2000, the 400-page document was broken up into about 175 files, and they were all listed separately in separate little PDF files. So we had some people who started digging into those files. We discovered that each one of them was passworded and blocked from any kind of normal ability to compile the documents into a single file. So therefore, they weren't very searchable. And to cut a long story short, we had a person who spent over a day figuring out how to put that document together. And so that the year 2000 document is searchable. Now, this is the document that was published while Bill Clinton was still president. And there were some interesting names on this document. Now, when you talk about the Senior Executive Service, remember, we're talking about an independent group that's not even accountable to the department heads or the president. So I'm not sure what they're doing, and I'll talk about that from the standpoint of organizational development in a minute. But we found some interesting names in the year 2000 that were members of the Senior Executive Service. Probably the most notable one was Michael Horowitz, the current Inspector General of the Justice Department. He was a member of the Senior Executive Service in the year 2000. And in the Treasury Department, we found two very interesting names that worked for Larry Summers. One was Sheryl Sandberg, and the other was Marnie Levine. And I will bring you to the current time and point out that Sheryl Sandberg is the Chief Operating Officer of Facebook, and that Marnie L. Levine, who has the last name now Deutsch, is the Chief Operating Officer at Instagram. So what we see, and this document further proves, is this intent to weaponize our government and to weaponize our technology, which these people subsequently stole, has its organizational roots in this Senior Executive Service.
And I believe you said out of the 58 or so agencies, 54 of them are in fact led by Senior Executive Service members. And by your new list, which by the way, when we went to look for these things, we ran up against walls. So your hunting dogs are far superior to even the conclave. So I have to salute you for that, because we ran up against so many walls and blocks and, as you say, passwords and just discombobulation, so that there are actually 10 different categories of being an SES member, and you get paid. Starting pay is the highest pay that somebody makes in the government who's gone all the way through the GS, the general schedule, up to 15, 1 through 15. They start at 15 and above in most cases because they are considered to be professional executives who have come to save the day in the government, who the government bends over backwards for so that they can pay them whatever, so that they don't have to even report whether they have a criminal record. They automatically get a top secret security clearance because they're going to work in all these agencies. They rotate around. They may not be, and usually are not, even executives in the area that they are now in control of. Most of them are appointed, especially now since Obama's time, because as you pointed out, from 2000 on, Obama's executive order expanded the senior executive service so they couldn't even be fired, so that they were almost all independent. They all get a yearly raises from a review board of their subordinates. So the subordinates give them raises, and they can't be fired. And once they're appointed, they keep the job as long as they want. In the interview, they don't have to say whether they have a criminal background, whether they were born, whether they're Putin's uncle. Nothing. These people are given exceptions to go straight to the top, to be in control, and even Trump's appointments, like Jeff Sessions, has to answer, because Jeff Sessions is new to the Department of Justice in that job, has to answer to someone in between who is a buffer running interference, who is an Obamite, because 8,000 of the 9,000 of the current SES members are Obama appointees, or people that Obama moved up through their positions. But when they do, they basically make a vow, and that vow is to be the shadow government, to keep the status quo, to keep the bureaucratic career people in position. And when they need to have somebody like a Sheryl Sandberg or a John Podesta or a Michael Horowitz move into one of these stupid low-paying government jobs, well, they get paid as much or more than the president. Nobody knows how much they're paid.
Right.
There's a group that reviews how much they're going to pay them and gives them a yearly bonus, and then they get presidential awards and all these mysterious things. Nobody what that means. That's money. So these people,
they don't even disclose the amounts that they receive. The cells in those spreadsheets are empty where it talks about their amount of pay.
There is no limit to what they can be paid. But let me just point something out. Then, under what we have understood and what you have brought to light, I would assume that Robert Mueller is currently a temporary SES member, a senior executive service member. Now, you have pointed out recently, which was another big breaking news for us, that these special counsels are actually not following a law anymore. They're following a regulation, and that the Mueller investigation, because of its nature, and what Janet Reno did to expand the special counsel into being a regulation that was open for the elites to have a star chamber or a kangaroo court anytime they needed one, was really an opportunity for them to be able to spend the amount that's allowed. Robert Mueller may spend $100 million a year on this special investigation because he is more than likely a senior executive service member, and it's carte blanche for these people. These people make more than the president. And by the way, their starting salary is generally the salary, their starting base salary is the salary of the vice president of the United States of America. Is that not shocking?
Yes, it is. And the money issue is huge because we're paying these people their salaries, and yet there's no transparency in this report. These reports are voluminous, by the way, and they are what we noticed with bureaucrats is they do one of things to avoid transparency. Either they hide it, or in this case, they push out so much paperwork, and as we just discovered, it's fragmented and the files are hard to read and hard to put together. They either dump it on you so you don't want to take the time to look at it, or they hide it. And the money issue aside, prior to starting software, I was in organizational development, and I did a lot of work with senior teams in companies to deal with vision, goal setting, problem solving, time management, those kinds of things. And so maybe I come at this from a little different viewpoint. I see the money issue, and that's scandalous and it's offensive, actually. But from the standpoint of organizational development, here's the issue I have with the senior executive service. They give lip service to the idea that they're an impartial body and that they should maintain an aloofness over the current administration, and they act like they're some sort of accountability body, but it couldn't be anything further from the truth. What's obvious here is that there's a hidden agenda. There's somebody driving the senior executive service, and it appears at this time that that's parked about 2 miles down from the White House in that bunker that Barack Obama built with Valerie Jarrett. But that aside, when you work with a management group or a company, one of the things that's very important if you're going to have a successful organization is that the senior management of that organization has to be all pulling in the same direction. Otherwise, you've got people pulling left, pulling right, and the CEO can't get anything done. And so the scandalous aspect of this senior executive service, which very few people have even heard of, is that it appears to be put in place specifically to stop any kind of effectiveness within the elected group of people that the people put in place. And it's apparent with our current president that these people are pulling in another direction. And so from the standpoint of organizational development, as far as I can see, this group needs to go away, because there's no way our elected president can do his job with these people. They're all saboteurs. It's obvious they're all saboteurs. And they've all organized themselves to be saboteurs.
Exactly.
That profiteer from terror and conflict around the world. The CIA and the NSA and all these spy agencies, the entire intelligence community is really just a lobbying group for people who want to make money with war. That is what this is all about. And their business is done by murdering millions of people. There's one law for them, one law for us. It's all about the commercial interest, the money. It's not about the people anymore. And this awakening is happening, it's showing itself, and it's only going to grow. And I think over the next decade and two, we're going to see more and more people getting elected that are not the deep state candidates, that are like Trump, where people have hope that he will actually go in there and disrupt the corruption and change things. And it will become increasingly difficult for the deep state to maintain their power within politics. And that is why, and I find this the most incredible development right now in the United States, 25% of the Democratic candidates in this 2018 election are intelligence community members. They are people from the CIA, from the NSA, because the deep state realizes we can no longer rely on our puppets, because the people have been waking up to the fact we now need to put our own people into Congress and the Senate and take over power that way. And, you know, this is an act of desperation. That is how I see it. And they realize that their power is fading, that they are getting more and more exposed, and that ultimately they might completely be destroyed because of people that understand what's going on. And one of the big motors that is driving this is WikiLeaks and Julian Assange. And everyone should support this guy 100%. We have exposed the fake news media. We have shown how they really operate. Sometimes you need to put someone in place you would never think should be president, just to expose them, to expose the ways they work and how the system works. And the deep state has gone too far this time, because all of this media reporting about Russia, every day, in and out, people are getting it. People are understanding now, well, we can't trust our media. And that is what gives rise to other alternative media organizations now. So to everyone who hates Trump and the fact that I supported Trump, it also opens the eyes of a lot of people. And that is really the greatest achievement of Trump's election, is that everyone now understands you cannot trust the media. They are lying to you day in, day out, because they are in bed with the same people that cause all these wars, that want to sell their weapons, that want to be intelligence contractors, that shift billions and billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars every year from the taxpayer into their own pockets, you know? And that is really why we are seeing this media landscape to be so completely obedient to the state and not reporting to us anymore what's really going on. Investigative journalism is mostly dead. And there are really only a handful of rebels left that are reporting the truth. And that is why it's so important that we all get behind WikiLeaks and that we support new alternative media organizations. The truth is the enemy of the deep state. The truth is what keeps us informed and make informed decisions. If we are informed about why they go to war and what the real consequences of it are and everything, then we wouldn't go to war. They need to keep us dumb. They need to try and manipulate the media and do all this propaganda work. Let me give you one example. Every Hollywood movie, right, that is about war is mostly a heroic propaganda piece for the US military, how all these soldiers and everyone hug each other and how great it is, the camaraderie and, how we're fighting for a free world and we are the best. But in reality, when you look at it, all these Hollywood studios directly, indirectly benefit financially for making these movies. They get tax cuts. They get access to military machinery. The CIA has a huge department just for working with movie makers to basically influence their scripts, influence their stories. Well, if you say it in that way, then you can have access to this plane carrier and you can film our fighter jets and all this stuff. So, it's not just the media that is being manipulated to sell us wars. It is also Hollywood that turns these wars into some kind of awesome thing that the US government does, and that the US is such a good operator globally that we should all just be happy that we have such a good force for peace and righteousness. But in reality, when you really look at the truth and you read some of these WikiLeaks documents, you see that none of it is the reality. It's all a big fake story. These people that are going to war and killing millions of innocent people, they are the devil. They are evil. There's nothing righteous in what they do. But they are very sophisticated in lying to us. They have really mastered the way of manipulating the information that we get, how we get it, how we consume it, and to make us feel like, yeah, it's okay. What they're doing is just for the good. I don't need my privacy. Come on, I'm doing nothing wrong. They can spy on all of us, and the reason why you think that way is because they have manipulated you over decades with their propaganda in a very sophisticated way. And all these companies, these large US tech companies, they are now in bed with the deep state, and they love it because what do they get in return? They get more power. Their businesses are less scrutinized. They get away with more stuff where the government would usually say, long time ago, well, maybe that's not really appropriate that you sell this user data to all these companies. And at the same time, they are at the table with the most powerful people in the world. It makes them feel powerful. It makes them feel like we are part of something bigger. You know, we are insiders now. The deep state is a business. It's a business operation, okay? The Russia department of the deep state is a significant percentage of their business. Imagine if all of a sudden relations with Russia were friendly and we are at peace and we are cooperating and everything is happy. That means that this large department has to shut down or has to significantly be reduced in its numbers, which ultimately means a significant budget cut for the deep state. And obviously they don't want that. It is not Russia that hacked the DNC. It is their very own conduct that an individual was so unhappy with, thought it was so unfair and dishonest and unethical that that person decided, I want the truth to be known. This is how we get the truth. It's people on the inside, like Snowden, seeing what's happening, how our rights are being undermined, how the processes are being perverted to achieve an outcome that is predetermined, that some powerful people have made in a boardroom and are now pushing down our throats. You know, and it is sad that Hillary Clinton is still seen by quite a large number of people in the US as a clean operator. She is a complete fraud, a criminal scum, and I'm really happy, even though it's really a tiny role that I played, but I'm really happy that I was a part of stopping her from becoming president. And I'm really proud of WikiLeaks for having had their part in stopping that crazy bitch becoming president. Excuse my language. She is a bitch.